Namaste. So, as we read these aphorisms and the mother's commentary, as we have said earlier, that the mother said these were written when Sri Aurobindo was piercing through the intuitive mind into the supermind. So, they also, in a way, reveal to us the operations of the new consciousness, how the new consciousness will operate. We have a glimpse of it in book 1, Canto 3 of Savitri. The mother made a comment upon it that these are the experiences which the new being will have. So, here we have one of those aphorisms. It gives us a window glimpse into how the new beings will operate, and we know that our operating system right now is reason. Reason and analysis, the highest, though still not a common acquisition for humanity. That's a different thing altogether. But humanity becomes humanity when it uses reason to subordinate the vital so called spontaneity, instincts, impulses. Then we become human. But to become superhuman or to ascend to the superhuman state, we have to transcend reason and live more and more in the light of intuition. So, this aphorism gives us one of the hints. We have been seeing the previous aphorisms also. When I speak, the reason says, this will I say. This I, of course, Sri Aurobindo is speaking about his own experience. But God takes the word out of my mouth, and the lips say something else at which reason trembles. So we know that Uttarpada speech, this is exactly what Sri Aurobindo remarks. We may say the first speech, where he discloses about his own inner state, and the only one where he publicly disclosed. And that is soon after the Alipur jail. And when he speaks that, toward the end, he was called by the Society for the Protection of Religion. Of course, the Hindu religion, that was the context. So, but what he speaks, he says at the end that you have called me for speaking about it, but I do not know. He will speak, and when he speaks, he gives some of the most profound truths. And that profound truth, in a nutshell, was that, or is that if Hinduism wants to protect itself, defend itself, it must live by the core of Sanatan Dharma. And he gives us the hint about what Sanatana Dharma is, a glimpse about that this Dharma is an all-inclusive Dharma. It includes the workings of the material universe, the psychological workings, and the spiritual, and sees this world from the not only the highest light but the most comprehensive wisdom, where every path is included. It's a very inclusive Dharma. So it is the Dharma of the future, quite naturally. But he gives a hint that if India has to rise, Sanatana Dharma should be the basis. If India has to spread the light into the world, Sanatana Dharma should be the basis. And obviously it is something to be lived rather than simply enter into dialectics. So this is his own experience. All of them are his own experiences. Now the mother's commentary. When Sri Aurobindo says I, he speaks of himself and of his own experience. We would like to be able to say that what he says is symbolic and that it could apply to many people. But unfortunately, this is not so at all. So most of the time we see that people plan, this is what I am going to say, they reason out things. By reason they want to know the result, and accordingly they think that through this kind of application of reason, they can get a desired result. The strange paradox of life is, in this I keep on reminding everybody, while we must plan, planning is part of the whole process. But everybody in adolescence and the parents even before a child is born plans. But life always brings in the element of unpredictable. And the reason is that this world was not built by reason, is not governed by reason, and its culmination is not, rational being is not the highest. So, it was built by a supra-rational intelligence. That supra-rational intelligence, wisdom, is embedded in creation. And in animals, it takes the form of instinct. So instincts are reflex of intuition. Within animals, whatever is needed, it is given as instinct. But the beauty of this instinct is it's actually a very comprehensive intelligence. So it takes care not only of each species, but sees this species in relation to the whole. And one of the examples that I mean, in the supramental comprehension, that's how it operates. So one of the examples that comes to me right away is, Tiger and the Deer, Sri Aurobindo's poem. So there is this tiger who is given strength. Nature has given it strength so that it's not the king of the jungle because it's a cat family. Lion is lion after all. But it is given that strength to take care of its needs. But the deer is given swiftness. And see the paradox that tiger is much stronger, but over a period of time, the deer multiplies and the tiger tends to wane. Numbers tend to decrease. So nature operates in a way. When we look at the operations of nature, there is a tremendous conscious intelligence which is operating behind. And even if somebody doesn't believe in spirituality or God or whatever it is meant by that name, just by looking at the way things operate, one can see there is a consciousness which is embedded with intelligence and power both, which is operating in nature within certain boundaries. So, in human beings, we have to go through the rational stage. And beyond reason, there is intuition. So, instinct in an animal, which leads to spontaneous action, must change into the spontaneity of the gods. In between, there is reason. But there comes the problem. Because if we abandon reason prematurely, then we may act under the vital spontaneity. It's very, very common. Much more common than we believe it to be. It's so dangerous, at least as a psychiatrist, I do encounter so many people. I feel like this, I wish, and they keep on not only speaking, acting under the impression that they are acting under a higher light. And the sign of higher light, for example, will be tremendous peace. Nobody can be restless and angry and full of hatred and believe that they are acting under a higher light to start with. As a starter, leave aside other things. So the mother says, I wish more and more people were acting under an intuitive intelligence and they were speaking under the stress of higher inspiration. And then she reveals to us another aspect of the aphorism. This experience of not saying what you have meant to say when you speak, but something else, is very common. But it is the opposite of what Sri Aurobindo speaks of here. So most people speak under an infra-rational state. So there also there is a spontaneity, they justify it. Well, I felt angry, so I spoke. It's almost like an animal. Not almost is, because form is human. So, but the way of life is like an animal. So this is the way speech operates. Whereas what Sri Aurobindo is asking us to do is something different. That is to say, when you are sitting calmly at home, using your reason to its full extent, you decide to say this or that. You may decide that, well, this is not a good way, that people should fight and there should be better harmony, there should be peace, things should be more organized, more coordinated. And reason can tell us a lot of things, actually. Reason can, if we allow it to step back and look at things very impersonally, reason can give us a lot many clues about how to organize our life, just to be reasonable. So when we sit at home, calmly we think about a thing, we decide upon a course of action or a course of speech. You decide to say this or that this is the reasonable thing. But all too often, when you begin to speak, it is the lower impulses, the unreasonable emotions and the vital reactions which take hold of the tongue and make you say things which you should not say. This is something we learn with experience, at least I have learned with experience, that whenever, over a period of years, that don't say things immediately in a, especially if there is a state of excitement. Hold yourself, wait. So, of course, it's a question of degree of control. There are things which are too near and important to you, and you immediately react. Ultimately, even these things, one should just step back and wait. Wait for the true impulse to emerge. Because when we speak in that state of rush and anger and excitement, all the lower impulses, its consequences can be very disastrous. So normally, the unreasonable emotions, he has used very interesting, his mother's adjectives. She is not saying it is the lower impulses, the emotions and the vital reactions. She is using the word unreasonable. So very often it's important to understand that it's not that, of course, we are not talking of transmuted emotions, but emotions as they operate within human beings. So people often take that course that, no, I should have no expectation or what. I say, no, you have expectation, but reasonable expectations. So that is called reasonability in emotions. Instincts, vital instinct, they are there. Are we supposed to completely transcend it? Yes, but that is a long journey to transcend and transmute. Until then, we can bring in reasonableness. So that's what we can do. And it, in so many things we see, simple thing like act of parking the scooter right in front of the door, just because it's easy for you to rush in, but you have blocked somebody's way, which is very common. To the act of honking when there is no requirement. Even now I was seeing somebody going, the moment you get across a square, and in White Pondy there are too many of them, you honk. Why there is a need to honk there? It's just mechanical. So this is how many things we do which are unreasonable, and their consequences are what they are. Here, it is the same phenomena. But as I said, the other way around, here now she is speaking of Sri Aurobindo, instead of infra-rational impulses which make you speak with excitement and passion. So these are the two things. That's why TV debates, for all their so-called chatpata masala, you see people when they get excited, when they are passionate, there is things they will miss. So one has to always, the moment one is losing the calm, it means keep calm, keep quiet. So otherwise, one will end up saying something which is foolish. So she says what Sri Aurobindo is saying, that instead of infra-rational impulses which make you speak with excitement and passion, it is on the contrary an inspiration coming from above. So that's so beautiful. And the more calm we are, the more the inspiration will come. The more tuned, upturned we are. A light and a knowledge greater than those of the reason, which take hold of the tongue and make you say things that you would have been incapable of saying even with the most enlightened reason. Which means including things which are going to happen in the future. So why intuition can know it? Now reason tends to be too much lost on the surface appearances. So it's all the time analyzing it, reacting, analyzing, responding. So it can know within this little range. So if reason would have analyzed things, I'm sure people would have analyzed in the 40s. It would have said that Germany is a gone case. Just like it was declared that India is a gone case. But there are things which we cannot see. It's not about just speaking prophetically. There are things which are happening inside which we cannot see. In the mind of a nation, in the heart of a people. And suddenly those who can see it, and the entire play, even the direction it is going to take, all this in one flash is revealed. This flash is something which reveals a whole field. So reason is like a flickering lamp we take into a dense forest which is ill-lit or hardly lit, and with this lamp we are trying to find our way. But one moment of intuition is like a lightning flash. So suddenly in that flash we see plenty of things. We can still use reason if it's not operating all the time, but we get a sense of which way to go. And then we use that. And of course, when the intuition is operative fully, then it can be used fully. Sri Aurobindo tells us that the reason trembles because these higher truths always appear in the human domain as paradoxes. Revelations contrary to reason. We know Sri Aurobindo's whole life. In 1914, he is writing the world today presents like the cauldron of media and a new change is going to come. He speaks in the Life Divine 1914 to 1919. Who would have ever imagined? Even now people find it hard to imagine. Every little war, here and there, and everybody is excited about Third World War. That's not how the logic of creation operates. Even if there was no war and there was not this greater consciousness, Third World War or a pralaya becomes an inevitable thing. Because matter doesn't respond beyond a point to the spiritual influx. But the moment matter begins to respond to the spiritual influx, it will keep prolonging the life of the universe. It's something very amazing, the way it operates. The whole logic of pralaya is based on matter's unresponsiveness beyond a point. So, the higher impulses come, then there is a tussle with the lower, and there are wars, conflicts, and you go to a point, but beyond that point, mankind is unable to go. Matter pulls it back, and then there is a slow decline, degeneration, and end. But if matter can become responsive to the higher consciousness, keep on modifying, so new urges, new intuitions are going to rise more and more, a new efflorescence, and therefore the new creation which will cross over the need for pralaya. There is a logic in it. A supra reason, if you like to call it. But typical reason, where is the supramental race? This is how it operates. It trembles. Revelations contrary to reason. Not because reason is incapable of understanding what comes from the higher regions, but because these revelations are always ahead of, very much ahead of, that which reason has understood or accepted. So reason tries to standardize things, limit it, very comfortable, when it has built a safe system. So when mother was told about people going crazy in America, she said, for the moment it is good. Now this is something very strange, Reason will tremble, mother. New creation, what are you saying? She says all the old methods, ways of life and systems are breaking. That's what it basically represented. The newest new is yet to come. So there will be a phase of transition and confusion. But the old system, which was a fixed order, had to break. And this is what it was doing. So the new impulse, the same thing she spoke about, women uprising, the youth revolt, many things which people don't understand, because in the new world they expect children will wake up in the morning in Indian context. I'm sure it must have been something like same everywhere. They will listen to parents and say, Papa, where do I have to go today? Okay, whatever the Papa says, they will do exactly like that. When that doesn't happen, we don't understand where is the new world. But that is precisely the new world. It is not the old world and the old conception modifying itself. It is an entirely new world. That's what Mother reminds us again and again. So it is way ahead. And we know even in the past, wherever intuition has revealed itself as a flash, whether in Queen Hatshepsut in Egypt, or we see Leonardo da Vinci making paintings and drawings of the aircraft. So all these were, suddenly it has revealed something of the future. So she says, these revelations are always ahead of, very much ahead of, that which reason has understood or accepted. But the interesting point is, she says here, it's not that reason is incapable of understanding. It has to receive and understand. Once it understands the play of forces, the logic of creation, it's inevitable. For example, the moment we say that the logic of creation is the source is in everything, then this brings a totally new understanding, which is a rational understanding. So if the source is in everything, technically everything can become a door to connect with the Creator. It's very logical. You can pick up anything and connect with the Creator. Technically, logically it's possible. But reason finds it very difficult to go beyond the limits. That's why Sri Aurobindo's aphorism, reason was the helper, reason is the bar, which will come to later on. What the human reason of today finds reasonable has been paradoxical and mad in the past, and we know many of these things, which included the theory of evolution, which included the flight. Nobody would have imagined that there will be space flight when this first little flight took off. And there are many things today we cannot imagine and conceive of. Human beings living with an intuitive divine intelligence, what that would mean for Earth, what that would mean in our daily interaction. So she says, one misses certainly these unexpected, paradoxical, revolutionary revelations which are manifesting now and making the reason tremble will in time to come be very reasonable knowledge, which in turn will tremble before new revelation. So reason later on receives, turns it into a kind of system. So who could have imagined 100 years back where Britain would be and where India would be? But this is how, in a greater light, when Sri Aurobindo made this prophecy, if you may say so, I think it was 99, that the sun of India's destiny will rise and overflow India and overflow Asia and overflow the world. Many people must have thought, madness. How is it possible? Okay, it will be liberated. To that extent, you can probably conceive. But it will rise and overflow. That's difficult to imagine. It is this sense of something which is always moving, progressing, being transformed, that Sri Aurobindo is trying to give us with these compact phrases which for a time shake our understanding of things. So another dimension which he brings out it, because intuition is always revealing more and more. The intuition of today, reason trembles before it, but as it shines in all its effulgence, until it changes into the plenary supramental knowledge. That's its path. Intuition picks us and takes us towards there. And in that greater light, we see much greater, much in a much deeper, more comprehensive way. Not that intuition tells us anything wrong, but yet intuitive light is still a light which has to be further widened, deepened, broadened, taken to its ultimate supramental wisdom. So this is the whole journey, and as the mother says, let us pray that may more and more may it express in us, because she says, we would like to be able to say that what he says is symbolic and that it could apply to many people. But unfortunately, this is not so at all. It's not that humanity doesn't want it, but my own feeling it's too much in a haste. Instead of doing what is needed to be done to build the foundation of peace, equanimity, getting rid of preferences, vital desires, so that intuition can have a play. They immediately want to believe that, oh, I am living in intuition. Whatever is coming to me is coming from intuition. And that is a danger. So she is pointing out the danger and the possibility and the ever progressing revelations which reason will receive, understand. Then there will be another level at which we will move. Once again, reason will receive. Ultimately, this reason itself will change into what we call today's divine reason. That's what Sri Aurobindo uses. And very often people feel that he is logically explaining things. It's not exactly that. It's not human logic. But it is a divine logic, where once you have this entire panorama, then it becomes inevitable. Like he says, the supramental change is inevitable. It is in the very logic of things. Well, what is the logic of things? The divine presence in matter. So, matter will divinize itself. It's destined. But if we don't take that into account, or even the Superman, it's inevitable in the logic of evolution. Evolution can't stop with human beings. It's bound to go further. So this is there to a higher divine reason, it is self-evident. But to the human reason, which bases itself on the apparent, immediate facts, it appears, even in people who say that yes, there is divine in matter, divine in every element, still there is this gap. So we'll stop here and come to the next aphorism.